Okay, this is my new Proxmox cluster that I installed a few months ago, but I haven't done much in configuration except adding a few VMs for testing. But the first issue that I have is right now, if you go to looking at my summary right now, you can see everything looks good. I'm only using 2% of my CPU, 20%, 21% of my memory, and 11% of 15.23 terabyte. But in reality, that is not correct. Everything looks good here, but let's go into details to see what is going on. So all those nodes, they are built exactly the same way. I can go over the spec later, but right now I would like to focus on the storage and the network. So if I go to any host and then I go to disk, so at first glance, what I see here is that I have three drives. So the first one is an NVMe and it's a 2 terabyte. In usage, there is nothing on it. So that is brand new. Nothing has done, not even formatted yet. Now this one is an hybrid drive that comes with the Quotum. By the way, I'm using a Quotum. I can add the description, the spec for that Quotum, or we can see it later. But this comes with a 2 terabyte drive. Now, if you go into the 2 terabyte drive, it's completely different from the NVMe. You notice that we have um, an EFI folder and a few partition created. So what happened is that drive come with the Quantum, and myself, I purchased a 1 terabyte NVMe and I installed Proxmox into it, and then I left that drive um, as a backup just in case for whatever crazy reason I would like to boot on this one that is a Windows partition. The Quantum comes with a Windows partition. Okay, so now, but how much drive do we have in the server? How much can I use right now? So if I go under this host again, and then you will notice that I have um, a LabNet drive. And then this one, you will see it's a very big drive that has a lot of backup. That is a remote drive that is configured from a safe environment. We can talk about it later. But the second one we have from this host is the local drive. So looking at the local drive right now, or if I go to the summary and it says that local drive has 100 gig, okay, and I'm using only 6.19% of it, and then I go to the local NVM and I am using 34 gig of it. So what if I go to this one? Is it the same situation? Yes, we know this one is going to be the same because it is added to the cluster, not directly to the drive. But if I go to local, and all those locals, they have a name after them because it's only available to um, locally to that host. It's not something that a second host from the cluster can piggyback on, just only available to it. So this one as well, I'm using 9.40% of my 850. So, uh, but what about the rest of my drives? Why are they not coming over here? So let's go back. So if I look at every single one of them, so Vinny has three drives and Vici has Sam and exactly the same thing for Vidi. So the first thing I will have to do right now, if I really want to to have redundancy on on my um, on my cluster when it comes to uh, storage, the first thing I will try to do is, okay, configure cluster, configure Ceph on this one. Now, the only thing I would like to say is Ceph inside the Proxmox, it's not the full Ceph that we have if you were running a separate Ceph environment. So we have access to another lab where we have Ceph running, and then we can demo it as well. But for right now, let's think about the Ceph that is natively integrated to, or the version of Ceph that is natively integrated to Ceph, to Proxmox. So, by the way, I'm not going through a checklist or bullet point or any chapters. I am only going over what I have right now running on my second lab, and then drop some ideas about how to design something properly, and then we can take it from there. So if anybody is interested on playing with more stuff, on testing more stuff, this is a lab that is from lab to production. We have some stuff running on it that is not a mission critical that we can shut down, except I have one server here that is the DNS for my internal network. So if I shut it down, I may not be able to go online, but everything else will continue to work. So I didn't test anything. I'm just going through what is going on, what I can do right now. For right now, I'm going to test only one drive. Okay, I'm going to set up Ceph, and let's see how it goes. Okay, I haven't done anything yet, but let's see if I can get it to work without any problem. I have seen maybe 10, 15 videos online about how easy it is for you to configure Ceph to get it going, but you have to understand what is going on in Ceph before you get into it, right? So the one thing you need to understand from Ceph, there's for now there will be one the main word you have to understand is the OSD. Without going through that detail, now in OSD to me in OSD is in hard drive, is a physical hard drive. And when I say physical hard drive, this one, for example, cannot be an OSD. The reason it cannot be an OSD because it has partition on it. In order for you to configure an OSD and then to make it work properly, you have to remove every single partition. But we'll test it after we enable Ceph, and then we'll see how it goes. So the first drive, you notice it doesn't have anything. So to me, this one may be a good candidate for my first OSD. Okay. Now then, when you create an OSD, there will be something else you need in order for the host to be able to use your drives, your OSDs. So you will have to put those OSDs inside a pool. Okay. Again, if anybody is interested on going deeper, we can look into that as well. So if I want to install Ceph, I guess the first thing I would have to do is install Ceph. Okay. So I noticed some people that were asking online what is the difference between Quincy Reef, but right now we already have Squid. That is the latest version. And if you look at the number, it makes sense because some people say one is faster than the other one. I don't know if that is the real way of saying it, but to me, I will go with the latest one. Why am I doing the latest one? I'm doing the latest one because, again, it's a lab with some production device on it, and the production servers, they are not mission critical. If I shut them down, there is no problem. But if you were to enable Ceph on a production cluster, I will always advise you on do your research, find out which one is very mature online, where everybody's supporting it and all the bugs they already iron out. because safe, it is not something that is easy to troubleshoot. If you lose your data or if something crash, you you will have a lot of problem. Okay, so I'm going to enable 19.2, that is the squid version, and then let me see what it says. Let me click on the advanced to see what it is. Do I even need it? Yeah, let's try that to see what it's asking me. So, saying blah, blah, again, guys, I'm doing it live. I didn't prepare for it. So if something goes wrong, it goes wrong. And that is the one thing that I like. So the reason I like it is I'm doing it right here. And so far, I already have one error message. I don't know what it is yet, but I think it's complaining about me trying to install the enterprise. Is there an option to? Okay, let me just make a mistake and then click on close. Or what if I come back here and I say no, I don't have any subscription. Or let's do no sub, right? No subscription, right? So if I do that and I'm going back here, is it going to continue or did it fail and then want me to start over? Yeah, I will call that a fail. I Let's close that thing. And then let's see if we can start over. Let me refresh, make sure nothing is broken yet. And I am doing NVIDIA right now. So I believe we have to install it everywhere. So let's start from here again. And then I'm going to use the screen. And then I'm going to say, okay, no subscription. And then let's start the install and see if it works this time. Yeah, sounds like we're getting further this time. Then we do yes. And this is my first video on that channel. I don't know how long it's going to be, but again, just having fun. Sunday morning. So hopefully, if somebody watched that video, you find something that is interesting, or you have a question that you can ask. And I am later on, I can if I click on another tab, for example, I can start while it's running. I can start showing you what I have on those servers. So, for example, everything here is going to be changed because I'm going to configure software device network here. So the software defined, sorry, network here. So a lot of things here may be different, but if you look at it, again, I don't want to just say, you know what, look at it. If you look at the one from port number 1 to 4, a lot of times they say the ENO, those are the built-in interface to a server, and then the ENP will be anything that is on a PCI card, right? But this is a quotum. That this quotum, I don't have the number right now, but I will look for it if required. It has 4 port or 4 port copper and then 4 10 gigs in the front. To me, it's look like everything's supposed to be on board, but that is not the case. And the other thing is, when you go in front of the quotum, you will see, for example, this cable, this one. You see, it's it's configured, right? And then this one, it says it is port number 3. Okay. So it was strange when it says port number 3. I was hoping that it was the ENO3, right? Then when I come to the CLI trying to find out what is going on, and I noticed it is ENP60. So that is the confusion. And spend enough time to understand which interface because when we go deeper into the networking, for example, if you look at my other cluster and then from that cluster you go to any node, and because I'm not using SDN here yet, so I'm using the old way of configuring stuff in the networking. Again, I'm not claiming what I'm doing here is the best way of doing thing, but that is the way that works for me. And I use my networking understanding to configure my Proxmox cluster so that I don't have too many issues. So this one, I'm using two cables for my Ceph and my Kubernetes network. And again, most of my VMs, they run on that bond zero. And that bond zero is a dual 10 gig fiber connected to a Cisco 9500 switch, and then to provide a LACP. And then for the management, and the reason I did that is because I was having some problem most of the time when I reboot the server, ENO1 and then ETH1, they kept flipping around. And the best way for me to get it to work properly was to create another bond with them. And I say, okay, regardless what happened when I reboot, I will still have connectivity, right? And then here you see all my bridges, and then all my sub interface in VLANs. Those one in another video, hopefully I will be able to convert them into um, the, the SDN. And the reason you want to do that is if you have this one is only a three nodes cluster, and I believe the other nodes, the cluster we have in production, I believe we have six or more nodes on it. But this is my work lab, and then this one is my home lab. So when you configure all those, and you have multiple ways of configuring them, right? You can configure them on the UI, but when you have that many to do, it's best to configure it from CLI. And as long as you know how to VI on that interface on that file, it will be easier for you. So why I would like to move away from that into SDN is because when I do this one from that server, when I'm done, I have to go back to that one and then do exactly the same thing. And then I will have to go back to that one and do the same thing. The reason you have to do it in all nodes, remember, we're talking about HA. And then if you want to fail a VM, or migrate a VM from one node to another node, you don't want to shut down your network. You don't want to move it somewhere where that network does not exist, right? And if for whatever the reason we have a new VLAN that we're going to use in our environment, we have to come to every single node and then we add them. So that's why later on we will convert from here to something else. Okay. So let's go back here. It says install self script successfully, blah blah blah. Okay, let's do next. What is it asking for? Okay, I don't have a public thingy. I have this one, but this one is a slash 25, and I am going to use it right now, but I believe it's better if I create something else. Okay, if I create something else to manage the communication between the self. And again, we can change it later. Okay, now remember when we're talking about redundancy, when we're doing a cluster, I think if you really want to have real-time redundancy failover and then you want to feel comfortable about it, it's to at least have three nodes, right? If you lose one node of the three nodes, you're still okay. But again, if you go into production, please try to do four or five. I'm not talking about replica, I'm talking about the nodes in your cluster. I will always prefer to do four going above, but not less than four for production. And then always do um, everything the spec every server is supposed to be um, designed properly like this one. But in my bigger lab, I will show you, although it is maybe 5 times faster than this one, but all the mistake I made. I mean, again, it's not the mistake I make purposely, it's the way it come to be, right? I got the first server, I installed it, then I have another server, I installed it, third server, and nothing match when it comes to spec, not even the same network card, amount of network card, not even the same amount of CPUs or virtual CPUs or even socket. So that creates a big problem, and maybe on a video what not to do when doing clustering in Proxmox, we can go over it. Now, the number of replica, why do we choose three? In my opinion and how I understand it is one replica will be uh, every data you have, every data you have will be replicate three times. And is it fair to say when it replicates three times, if you have three servers, each server will have a copy of that replica? And then if you have four servers, what happens if you have five servers? But I'm not going to speculate anything, but the way I understand it is that every replica belongs to a different OSD or a different physical hardware. Okay. So number of replica three, minimum replica two. You know what? I would like both to be the same. I don't want anything less than two. Um, I don't know all the validation about the reasoning behind this one, and I'm not doing four because I don't have more servers. But again, depend of how critical your data is, you decide. But if it was me, I would go on where I know I cannot go wrong, even if I was to use one physical server from the safe environment. Okay, so let's do this one and then do next, and then installation successful, basic blah blah blah, and then after that, they want us to do four things. You, of course, install on the other node, then create the self monitors, and then create the OSD. Okay, I'm just going to take a screenshot of this one so that I do not um, I do not forget what they want us to do. So I'm going to put this one in another monitor, and then I hit finish. Then I am going to hit save here to see what it's saying before I go anywhere else. So if I do save, it's warning, and I wish I had access to my other save full cluster so that I could show you what is going on. But okay, so right now we have nothing here. Okay, basically blank. So again, I don't know if the way I'm doing it is better than other people, but there's a confusion. I'm seeing people try to click on multiple tab. You see them on the top, right? To enable safe, and as if when you click on the different tab, it makes a difference. I don't know. I don't see why, because here you have you are on a cluster, and the cluster, any node on the cluster can manage the other one. And I think here, as long as I click on a server, it takes me exactly to that server. Okay. Um, um, the, the, yeah, I think just stay here and then do what you want to do is the same thing, but there's no reason to keep doing it. So squid, we go squid, and then we said no subscription, and then we said start installation. But now the only thing is, if I wanna do, since it's pretty fast, I don't have to do that. But what if I was to? I know I'm doing VG and Vinia. I'm not doing it, but if I wanna do side by side right now, okay, now it makes sense for me to come here and then click on this one and then install so that it can go at the same time. Okay, so I'm still doing no subscription, and then do this one and then tap back. Yes, maybe this one makes sense, but um all right, while it's doing that, let's go back here. This one is installing, this one is installing, the other one is already done. So let's talk again about those servers. If I click on any server and I click the summary, so that is the one thing that is important, right? We have 8 CPUs available on this one. You have 64 gig RAM available on it. And then for the default partition, it has 100. It has 100 gig created on it. And then we are not yet using swap, and that's a good thing. And here's my CPU here. And everything. I mean, I will always advise somebody to make sure everything is configured the same way, the same version, the same kernel, the same firmware version, everything, so that you don't have any problem. Because sometimes when you have issues, it's very difficult for you to understand why you have those issues, right? But take time to see exactly what is going on over here. And again, this one is exactly the same thing. Now, if this one is still running, I would like to talk about something else. If the idea for you when you create Proxmox is to have um, failover, high availability, and failover, okay? I don't know if there is a place where somebody write this one, but I'm going to show you what is wrong with my bigger lab, right? In my bigger lab, here's the environment I have right now. Although I shut down a lot of things, but when we talk about failover, what are we saying? We're saying if we lose one host, if we lose one host, we should be able to fail over to the other host so that we don't have a major outage or minimum downtime, right? But think about it. If you have three hosts, right? Three hosts, assuming that I did a good design here, right? Assuming, but it is not the case, and then we can see that later. But here, look, for the CPU, we are okay. We are okay to fail over. We are okay to fail over. That's what I'm saying. Be careful when you're doing the design, but pay attention to this one, right? This host may have the less amount of servers running. Maybe not the case, but it is at 75% memory. So what if we take 7.75 and then you have 54 and then 45, right? This one sounds 100. This one sounds 175. So 175, it's not enough to have perfect load balancing, right? Because if we do the math, we lose one server. For example, if we lose the smaller server, um, and be careful, 45% memory here doesn't mean it is the same as this one, okay? This one is about the host memory, and this one is about the host memory. But we don't know how much is 100 for each host. We can check later so that we can see. But what if all of them they were equal? What if every host has 100 gig RAM? So think about it. If I lose this one, so now I'm going to add the 45 to this one. Suddenly I'm running at 100%. So that is bad. Okay. But what if I lose this one, 75? So if I lose 75 right now, I'm going to put, let's say if all of them they're equal, we're going to, let's say we say 40%. Okay. Let's pretend it's 40% because we're splitting it in two. Those two are equal. And then we're going to do 40% here. That is 85%. And then the 40% here, that is 94%. That's good. So when you are designing your network, your cluster, make sure the memories that are live always equal to less than 100 if you were losing one server. Okay, if that makes any sense. So what I would prefer to do here is leave this one at 50, this one as 50, and then this one at 50. Okay. So now if I lose 50, and then I'm going to use 25 year, 25 year. So I will use both of them will run at 75% while I am fixing the third node, right? And then when the third node come online, and then everything will be offline, online, properly balanced. That's something we can talk about later. But for right now, let's go back to see if our Ceph is still installing. Well, for whatever the reason, I'm still at 92% here, and then I'm 89% here. Now, why don't we go here and then let's talk about the mistake I made on this server. So let's start from edu summary, and then this one said I have 32 CPU. Okay, I have 32 CPU, and then my CPUs are E5 2980, and I have two sockets. Pay attention to this one. Two sockets. Those are physical servers. Some of them they're custom build servers, but they are real enterprise servers. So two sockets. And I'm going to Tatooine. Here's my problem here, guys. This one has only 8 CPUs. Okay? And then this one is using the blah blah blah. E52609. Okay? Not good. 8. And socket 1. Okay, what about Nabu? Nabu on its own is 80 CPUs, right? 80 CPUs. And look at the socket. This one has 4 physical socket on that server. So what does that mean to us? If, for example, I design a database, okay, on this server, and then on the spec, I choose to put dual socket on it, I can only migrate to EDU because EDU has dual socket, okay? But I have 128 gig RAM on that server. And on this one, I have 200. Did I click on it or not? Nabu, I believe I have 256 gig on it. Okay. And what about Tatooine? Tatooine has about 96 gig RAM. So there is nothing that is balanced here. So this is very, very, very dangerous, and it is not something you can go into production with. If you get the money, if you don't get the money to do it properly, if it is going to be for a lab, it is acceptable. But if it is going to be something that you need in production, don't do it. Okay, it says I'm done here. And then it says I'm done here as well. So right now, if I click on every single one of them, they say no go. Okay. So now, since we enable save, let me see if I can see something on it. So let's first configuration. What is it? Say? Monitor. You only have only one monitor. Blah blah blah. So let's try to follow. Let's try to follow the screenshot we took. So the screenshot said I need to have um, self install. We just complete that and create monitors. Okay, so how do we do that here? So this one is already here because it is for this one, but let's add a second one. So this one is already VD, and then we're going to do Vini. And do we have to do that in every host, right? Let's find out. So we just enable Vini. And why do we want to do that, guys? Um, we want to do that because if the host that goes down is um, is the one that is the only monitor, you get yourself in trouble. Okay. So right now I have Vini VD, and I think Vici is the next one that we want to enable. Okay, done. So what if we go to here? It shows all of them already here. And this one is not running yet. Okay, now it's running. Okay, so this one is cluster based. Sounds like we do not have too much issue on it. I want to do the same thing for the manager. Okay, if you guys have problem with that, well, um, sorry about that, but yeah, doesn't break anything really to have the manager role running on all of them. Vini, Vidi, Vici. All right, so I guess standby, stop, standby, and then active. So you have two on standby, you have one active. So it means this one is the one doing all the heavy duty right now. But if this one is stopped for whatever the reason or crash for any reason, it's going to fail over to another one. Okay. And if this one is shut down, another one will take responsibility. And the data is synchronizing between all the managers. So there is no problem with that. All right. So now I said you need to create yourself an OSD. So let's start from the top and then do OSD. So I'm going to say, okay, let's create an OSD. Hmm. So do you see what happened here? I only have 2 TB available. The reason I'm saying only 2 TB available, it's because in Ceph, um, not experience from this Ceph, but from the full Ceph, when you're provisioning a Ceph node and the OSDs, they have to be blinked. So basically, if you grab a physical drive brand new, you put it to your server, and then the server detect it. That's all you need to do. Okay. Again, don't try to do any workaround because you don't have money to buy the physical or somebody's trying to get you to do otherwise. But because OSD is supposed to be a physical drive so that when you lose an OSD, you can go remove that physical thing and then replace it by another one of the same spec, same size, unless you are doing an upgrade and then you're replacing a 1 TB with 2 or a 2 with 4, but make sure everything is the same so that you don't degrade the speed of your network. Okay. And right now it's already tell you, don't worry about it, you don't need RAID. Okay. And that is something else people are trying to do. Oh, I really need to have very, very good redundancy on my data, so I am going to create multiple RAID, and then I'm going to use the RAID as OSD. Not do that. It's a waste of time because again, we already accept that we're going to have 3 copies of the data. So please don't do that. Let's just go with the physical. And then over here, those I've never done that. I don't know what it means. We can look into it later and then see how it is. But for this one, I know it is an NVMe. I'm going to do NVMe for it. This one, do I have to touch it? Hmm. No, I don't know what this one is. I am going to leave it as is. I can look online to see what it means, but I do not remember me having to deal with that. And if I use it and it's asking me other stuff, sounds like it's going to save the data elsewhere or whatever it is. Nope, I'm not doing anything. Let me leave it here. No encryption, and then let's do this. Boom. Let's see if it fails. Okay, sounds like we have nothing yet. Reload. Okay, we have OSD 0. Okay, now let me try something. So we are working on Vinny. I'm going here on Vinny and I'm going to my drives and then I'm going to do this one, this baby here, and then I'm going to wipe it. So it says going to blah blah blah. Yes, let's wipe it. Done. Okay, right now it doesn't sound wiped to me. Yes, it is wiped. Okay, so let's go back and that is again on Vinny. So if we go to Vinny and then create another OSD, and then it shows us SDA1 is available. And then this one, it is not SSD. It's an hybrid. I'm going to leave it as it is and then just do create and then I will leave it to Proxmox or Ceph to design what kind of hardware it is. Okay. Now there's one thing that we need to understand. So remember, when we create this first one, I choose the first um, the added NVMe first, so it's become as OSD0. I would like to repeat the process exactly the same way to the other nodes so that when I'm creating my pool, I can decide which one goes to which pool. And again, why do we want to do that? Think about it, right? Now, NVMe is faster than the hybrid. If I'm creating my pool, I don't want to put NVMe and the hybrid on the same pool because at this point, you're going to slow the NVMe down to the speed of the hybrid drive. Now, do you want to do that? Yeah, it may work for you, but will there be any other issues associated to that? I really don't want to know. Okay, I don't want to know. So let's start, Vichy. Exactly the same thing. We're going to do the NVMe first. But when you come here, you say, Vichy, oh, they're already here. That is the whole idea. As long as you create an OSD on Ceph, it's going to be available or seen by all the other hosts. But now, if I am on Vini, can I create an OSD on Vichy, for example? I don't know, but let's see. No, it doesn't show me anything. So it's going to show it everywhere, but it doesn't show me anything here. Okay, so there is no more option because I don't have any other candidate drive available to do that. So I'm going over here back in VG, and then even if I see for Vinny, that is fine. But what about creating your own? Now it says NVMe again as the first one, and I know it's NVMe. I'm going to say it's NVMe, and I didn't use anything for the other one. I'm not going to use any. Not going to use anything for here. And this time we are in Vichy. Let's go over here in Vichy and then go to our drives. And then the last one is the 2 TB that come with Windows. I'm going to wipe it and then boom, gone. Okay, and then at the same time, we can do this one for VD as well. And if I go to VD and I show this one, and I'm going to swipe it, then we're done. Okay, now let's go back to VD. We only did for Vinny. Did I start something else somewhere? No. Okay, so Vinny, Vici, we already create one for Vici. Okay, let's create the second one because we have a second drive. And then we go back to Ceph. And then we go to OSD. Vici, we create one more. And then it use this one as well. And then we create it. Okay, now the one thing that we have to look into right now is the first time we create it, it shows that we have OSD 0 and then OSD 1. So OSD 0 is assumed to be the first drive, and then OSD 2, OSD 1 was the second. Why is Vichy not showing OSD 0 and 1, but it does 2 and then 3? So here's the mistake I made. I could have, it's not a mistake, but I should have done it differently. What do I mean by that? I should have done, but I mean, again, there's no way for me to keep to stay consistent with it if I'm adding more drives on a daily basis, right? So let's say after the two drive, I decide to add another drive, I will still need to add it later. And then the discussion I wanted to start was, okay, I should have done all the NVMe first so that NVMe the first one is 0, the second one will be 1, the third one will be 2, and then the other drive will be there. But at the end of the day, it is what it is. As long as later on, when we have to sort the drive and create the pool, we want to be careful that we don't mix them. That's all what matters. Okay. So we have Vici and Vini, and then now we need to do for Vidi. Okay, so create OSD, same thing. We didn't change anything here. Okay, so that's why I didn't click the first time to choose it to make it a NVMe. Then we said create. Again, guys, this is my first video and I'm not paying attention through that time. I'm just focusing on exactly what we're trying to accomplish. And then I'm going to create the second one and auto detect for this one and then leave it. So what I can say right now is if everything is in order, sounds like it is not painful at all to install Ceph and then get it to work. Okay, because we've been doing that right now. The only issue I had was my own issues. I didn't start properly or create it properly. But so far it looks like everything works fine. And I'm going to wait for all the drives to be online, and then I'm going to create my first pool. And I'm just going to create two pools, right? One pool for um, the NVMe, and then one pool for the hybrid drive. I don't know what's going on, but this one's still not showing up yet. Okay, now we're good. Okay, so the last step they said we have to do is to create a pool. And what if I go over here? Okay, so um, permission. Let me try to just close some stuff here. So there's over here, it's give you the safe status, right? Okay, but it doesn't show me anything else. Okay, so now sounds like I have to go back to this one and then under safe create my pool. Those are more advanced stuff that um, we did in the full safe environment, but not in Proxmox. If I can play with this one, I want to try to play with it with maybe USB drive if I can mount them and then make a pull out of them. But for right now, I will not. I will just ignore it. So there's a pull one, right? Based on the size. So look like it's a generic thing that self create when you install it, right? Okay. So now that is where um I may have to do the right thing. So pretend I will pretend to call them autoscale mode on as a storage. Okay. New put for cluster storage. So if you do that, it's going to be available to everything. And target ratio, size, that is, I'm not going to put any size on this one because I want it to be available using the whole drive. That's not may not be the right way to do it, but again, so what if I create a pool and in that pool I am going to call it because it's not going to be for drives for ISO, it's going to be for VMs. What if I do VM um, and VME? Okay, so it's size 3 and minimum size. That's for the replication, and I use this one by default because that's almost the same setting. And later on, you can trick this one, but I don't believe you can trick it on something that is already live, right? So let's do create this one. So if I go to this one and then if I edit it, what does it tell me? Nothing. Okay. So there's one thing that I wanted to do here. I'm not seeing it here. I hope that is not, I hope that's not a problem, but I may have to pause the video and try again. I don't know if you see what happened. So I create a pool and I call it VM and NVMe, right? And it decided to create the pool. It didn't say anything. Okay. So I'm going to create another one. And then I'm going to say um, uh, ISO. Okay. And this one, ISO will be hybrid. Okay. I'm going to do ISO hybrid. And for this one, I want to do something. I want to do how much do I need for ISO? 100 gig? Let's say 200 gig, right? 200. And although I click on the advanced, this one do I need? No, it's ISO, man. I don't need that much, right? Okay. Um, create. All right. So I have two pools created, and then I am going to the over here and then see what I have on it. What do I have? So let me run a quick test right now on this pool. So I'm going to download an Ubuntu image. Just do Ubuntu desktop. Yes, I'm going to test that. Let us Ubuntu desktop see how good it is. I'm going to test a few Linux desktop. It's been a while. I haven't played with Linux desktop environment, but I really want to see what's going on. Let me see if I click on that link over here. Will I be able to download it from here? Where are we? Over here. And Vinny. Already